everyone, the day is here. Spider-Man 2 is available on PC after much anticipation and almost no marketing at all, and I decided we should try it to see what it's like. In addition, Nvidia just published their new drivers, which enable DLSS 4 on modern graphics cards in games such as Spider-Man 2. So we're really cranking the dial and seeing what this has to offer. Once you boot the game up, you see you get the little launcher. Here you can customize your various outputs. You can customize these settings and even the graphics settings there, presets. I'm gonna go very high just because why not? Let's crank it. And I wanna turn everything up. I'm gonna crank all of this, okay? DLSS ray reconstruction. Yeah, let's use the transformer model. That's the good stuff. Everything else is added. This looks good. Okay, and let's see how quickly we can make my PC melt. Booting in. Now, one of the other recent updates that just happened is that Sony announced that they are now making, for at least the single player games, the PlayStation Network account connection optional. They're gonna reward you with like skins and stuff if you do connect your PlayStation account, but you no longer have to have a PlayStation Network account in order to boot these games up and play them. I don't know why it took them so long. It was such a weird hill to die on, but now with Spider-Man 2, if you don't have a PSN account, you can still, in theory, buy it and play it. As of the time I'm recording this video, they still have not updated the Steam page. It still says it's required, but their other like press release said it's optional, so who knows? Oh, like right here, look. So I have my PSN account attached to my Steam account from Helldivers 2 already. And so as a result, I didn't have to sign in, but it gives me these skins as a result of having the PSN account attached. And then you're like, ooh, you wanna sign in now additionally? Then you can do that. Do I wanna do this now? No. Cancel. Yeah, boom, you can just do it that way. Now, because this is coming to PC, I'm going to play it on an Xbox controller because that just seems funny and interesting. So once we've done that, you can see here we are. I'm just gonna go straight to new game, not change anything. No, I don't need a recap. Let's see how it looks. Already, I mean, graphically, it's looking pretty fire. And of course, I'm recording this video in 4K and everything, really cranking it as much as I can. The hair and stuff is really grainy, and I'm not totally sure why that is. I mean, everything's running on DLSS quality, as you saw. We're using the new transformer model with DLSS 4. So everything is ideal and everything else looks very, very sharp, but the hair specifically has like this weird noise artifacting on it. It's a little strange. Yeah, even there in like the background, you can see this is an artifact from like the ray reconstruction stuff that they do. It was also there in Cyberpunk 2077. And yeah, in the hair, you can really see it. You know, bouncing back into this, I kind of forgot how Marvel the writing is in this game. It wasn't like this in the first game, but there's a lot of, oh gosh, oh geez, oh, Morty. It's just very weird. And here we go. First look at the open world. I'm also gonna get copyright struck. I just know it. And then here we go, bouncing off the rooftop. And we're ready to go. I mean, I think I'm gonna tweak the settings a little bit because there is some weird artifacting with the new transformer model, specifically with hair. I don't know what that is. I don't remember seeing that in the previous version of DLSS or on Spider-Man. Ooh, that was a stutter. With Spider-Man Miles Morales on PC or anything, but maybe that's just me. I mean, I do think it's running very smooth. If I pull up performance metrics, you can see we're floating still around like 50 to 60 frames with everything cranked. That's not bad. But we got to see how it works when we get into the real stress test, which is going to be this big boss fight and all the craziness that happens there. So buckle up, buckaroo, because this is going to be crazy. But first, we got to say thank you to our sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp is the online platform connecting individuals like you and me with licensed therapists in a convenient and affordable way. How it works is you simply go to the website with the link in the description box, and then you fill out this questionnaire, and this helps them match you with a therapist specifically based on your current situation, what difficulties you may currently have in your life, and they can even match you up based on your religious preferences and beliefs. So if you're not religious, you're paired with a non-religious secular therapist, and if you are religious, advantageous, you get matched with someone that more closely aligns with your perspectives. Then through the BetterHelp platform and app, you can actually have regular conversations with your licensed therapist and regular meetings. And since it's all online, you don't have to stress about driving into the office or dealing with any of those inconveniences. You can literally work on your mental health from the comfort of your own couch. And like I said, all of their therapists are licensed and certified in their respective specialties. They also make sure they're licensed in your specific country, which is all the better. Check them out at the link in the video description box below and save 10% off of your first month. Okay, we're back, and I'm sorry I've got to mute the sound, but they're using copyrighted music, and so I'm just kind of stuck at the moment how it is. But you can see cranked out the wazoo, we're floating in the 50s and 60s. And again, this is with an RTX 4090 with DLSS on. I don't have frame generation on because that disables VSync and that causes a bunch of screen tearing with my setup, but this is definitely a heavy port once you crank everything out the wazoo. Now, if I am to change some of these things and I go into like settings, display and graphics, I can tweak a lot of this. And you can see I've got things like DLSS upscale on quality. I have ray reconstruction turned on, of course. But if I lowered the settings from like very high to high, you can see some of that shifts and changes. Texture quality, I'm going to keep it high, or I could even put texture quality at very high, frankly, because VRAM is not an issue with this card. But you see that very quickly, most of the scaling is going to come from ray tracing, I feel. So even if I just go and turn ray tracing to high, for example, it's not going to ray trace shadows. It's not going to ray trace ambient occlusion or anything. It's not going to try to do any of that. And you can even adjust the range at which it starts using DLSS with all of that. And I can even add in like the transformer specific ray reconstruction, all of those different settings. And if I back out here and see how this affected our frames, just tweaking the setting like that, oh God, just tweaking the settings like that brings our performance up by 15 to 20 frames a second. So it does seem like most of the scalability is going to come from those ray tracing settings. And if I go in and I even turn off ray tracing completely, I have a feeling we're going to see some major differences in performance. So if I go in and I just turn ray tracing off and I back out, you're going to see, yeah, we're over 100 frames already. And I mean, it still looks pretty good. It still looks pretty good. Also, I don't know if I'm the only one that would do this, but when I was a kid playing the original Spider-Man 2, you know, the PlayStation 2 one, I remember grabbing onto helicopters in the city and I would just swing around holding on to them, like not even doing anything else. I just grab onto them and swing. Come on, grab onto it. Come on, grab onto it. No, it doesn't want to grab onto it. Okay, now it doesn't want to. But I remember I would just grab onto the bottom of the helicopter with the web and I would just dangle and swing that way. It was a good time. But speaking of good times, let's go back, crank the settings back to very high. I want to see, maybe we just go to like HBO Plus, and then let's just do ray tracing on high. We don't have to crank any of this stuff, but ray reconstruction we should probably turn on since it is a new feature after all. Back out and see where we're at in terms of performance. And with this, we're in the 90s, which I think is still pretty solid. Now, if you didn't play this game at launch, that's totally okay. But one thing that you should know is that this sequence that the game opens with is by far like the coolest sequence in the whole game, in my opinion. They really blew their load right at the outset, which is okay. I mean, it's a great way to start. But as a result, like, it's kind of tough because you keep waiting for them to go this big and this crazy again. And they just never really do, which is, you know, it's a good problem to have that you did so good at the start that now people are like, we just want more of that. But still, it's something you should be aware of, that this is definitely the high point. And after this, in my opinion, it doesn't get quite as crazy or cool. But I also think it's important to note this game, when it launched, I mean, of course, it's graphically and technologically crazy. Watch this throw. This, like, some of the stuff they're about to do, specifically when he throws you and chucks you across the city, It would not be possible on the PlayStation 4 or previous gen hardware. It is only possible with modern SSDs and the data streaming that you need as a result of that. It's really, really cool to see them push the boundary and do things that they couldn't have done before. And unfortunately, that's not really been something we've felt much this generation. It seems like we get some slightly faster load screens in some cases, but we don't really see them pushing the boundary like crazy. But this was one of those instances where they actually did, where they really did crank it and do something that you couldn't have done on last gen consoles. Just watch this throw here in a minute and I'll show you what I mean, because it's crazy. Okay, yeah, right here. Oh, what is that weird artifacting on the windows? That's odd. Okay, so right up here is where it's gonna get a little crazy. And I mean, even just these set pieces, I don't think you could have done in last gen with the crazy number of items and particle effects present. It's pretty insane when you really pause and look at it. Right in the boobie, there you go. Ooh, baby. Oh, right here, wait for this. See this right here? He throws you through a building, you zip across the city, and it doesn't so much as skip a beat. And then you go back, because they're like, yeah, why not? Let's just flex on you. That's such like a big dick move. It's so crazy. Like, that was not possible on last gen hardware. I want you to understand, that could not have happened. What they just did, it's insane. I know there's been some speculation and people being like, actually, I think it could have if you tweak this and that. But my understanding from what the engineers working on this game have actually said is that that would not have been possible on last gen hardware in the way that they just did it. They would have had to make some pretty major changes to get it functioning and running. But you know, this is Spider-Man 2. It's a big budget blockbuster that's campy and kind of silly and at times a little cringy. And it's not going to like change your life probably. It's fine, but it's a good time. It really is. But let's get through here and I want to see what some of the graphical features are like when we're able to calm down and look at it a little bit more precisely, so you can tell if this is something you could reasonably expect to run on your own computer, because I am going to test this also on a slightly lower end gaming PC and see if it runs. But okay, now that we have a little bit of an opportunity to look at the open world, if I zip on up here, I can show you kind of what some of these settings do. So obviously if I hop up here and we go into the settings and tweak stuff, you're going to be able to see kind of how these settings can affect the actual presentation of the game. So of course, the very high settings, these are mainly gonna have to do with the core of the graphic, I guess, options. It's things like texture quality, the texture filtering, things like that, quality of shadows. It's going to have a pretty significant effect, but this is the more traditional upgrade. So if you watch like the dirt or I guess sand on top of the roof, you can see that that very clearly changes as you alter the texture quality. It goes from looking like a graham cracker to actually looking like sand. So that actually does make a difference, but it's important to remember that all of these changes, they kind of have diminishing marginal returns. So, you know, low to medium is a big significant change. Medium to high is a good change, but smaller. And then high to very high is a much smaller change. So usually if you play on high, even with a high end setup, you're probably going to be fine. It's not always the case with PC ports. It's different for each one, of course, but in my experience, you can usually get even better performance, like, and not really notice that much of a change if you still just play on high versus very high. But if we want to crank everything out the ever-living ass and really, really push it, maybe even widen the field of view, which can often make games even more intense to render. If we crank it like that, and then we back out, you can see that we have a lot of detail preserved in the distance. And if we go up to these windows, in theory, the ray traced reflection should match what's behind us. So you see a building with like a little knob on top, and if we flip the camera around, you can actually see that that building is that one right there with the little knob on top. So the reflections actually match. If we look through this window, you can actually see the building that we are climbing reflected. Interestingly though, Spider-Man is not ray traced if you're too far away. So if I zip over now, he's ray traced. But if I zip back over here onto the side of the building, he doesn't show up in the ray traced reflection, which is kind of interesting. So you see I'm right there. I'm climbing across the face of that building. I should be shown, but it's when I jump over that then I appear in the ray traced reflection. It's very interesting how they kind of pull these little graphics tricks that you probably don't notice until you stop to look at it, but it makes sense because like when you're playing a game like this, and this is one element where I'm going to point out that I think ray traced reflections in a lot of games are largely unnecessary, because most of the time you're going to be playing the game like this. You're going to be swinging back and forth very quickly. Is it nice to have actual ray traced reflections and see the building next to you realistically reflected in the glass? Sure. But does that like really justify losing half of your frame rate and then requiring frame generation and stuff that adds latency to make up for it? Like, in my opinion, not really. Because most of the time you're swinging through, and this in motion, you're not going to really be able to tell the difference, especially because when I go into these settings and I change it from ray traced ultimate down to off, what they're going to do is they're going to have these sort of low resolution shadow box, I don't even know if you call these reflections, but they have these little bitty things built into them that don't actually match what's behind you. So you can see that there's that. It doesn't actually match the buildings that are behind you, but when you're in motion, it doesn't matter that much. Like, it just makes the windows look a little dirtier, and you're probably not going to notice, but your frame rate is going to double or triple. And so I think with a lot of the ray trace stuff, I understand why it's a big deal, because it looks really good in screenshots and in marketing materials and promotional materials to be like, look, now you can actually see the underside of this bridge and stuff. But I think in practice, when people are actually playing the video game, it doesn't really matter like that much. And maybe that's an unpopular opinion of mine, but I just feel like so much of the focus graphically this generation. Well, yeah, anyway, the focus graphically has been odd. Okay. Can I get out? No, I'm stuck. I can't move. He's webbing without me telling him to. What is happening? Okay, am I out of bounds? Is that what it was trying to do? Okay, now I have control again. That was odd. I guess I should also say that this is one of the interesting things about this port specifically, which is that until yesterday, they really did not have like any marketing materials for this at all. You could not pre-order it to pre-download the game. You could not look up system specs until yesterday at like 11 a.m. my time. We were on stream when they released it out of nowhere. They just were, for whatever reason, really, really quiet about this and didn't want to promote it, didn't want to send preview access to anybody, like just very weird about it. And seeing some of the weird artifacting occasionally and some of the bugs like that one we just saw makes me wonder if there's a lot more going on, if there's a lot more problems that maybe I will discover as I keep playing through this. I don't know though, because we've already had problems with like the hair rendering. We've had weird artifacting on the sides of buildings. We've had bugs kind of like that. I've had a couple that happened like right before we started filming for this portion of the open world section of the game. And it makes me wonder if there's a lot more that we're going to discover as we keep going. I don't know. Time will tell. But I'm suspicious. What I'm also suspicious of is how this game runs on handheld devices and on my gaming laptop, which has an RTX 3070 in it, which is close to the most common graphics card on Steam, which I believe is the 3060. So I'm going to get the game downloaded over there, and I'm going to put up footage on screen right now for you to see. This is how it looks on the 3070. It's playable. It's perfectly fine. It's definitely not going to be something where you're cranking all of the ray tracing options, but if you want to play it, it's certainly playable on that device. Now, as for the ROG Ally, I'm downloading it onto this device right now. So I'm going to capture footage of what it looks like and put it on screen here in just a second, but I don't know how it will run. So I'm going to to record the following reactions, and then I'll have my editor choose which one is appropriate, okay? So I'm gonna go, wow, it runs so good. I'm so impressed. Look at this. It looks amazing. And then the second option is, it runs okay. If you crank all the settings down low, it's functional, but I wouldn't recommend it as a main way of playing, but if you need to, it's fine. And then I'm also gonna do this. Oh God, it looks terrible. This doesn't run. Look at this garbage. Get out of here, Sony. Lame. So time will tell which reaction we will need to use, but I'm excited to see if it actually functions, because this little bugger has impressed me a number of times, being able to run some pretty heavy games with some of the scaling software that they have inside of it. Oh God, it looks terrible. This doesn't run. Look at this garbage. Get out of here, Sony. Lame. But all told, I think Spider-Man 2 on PC, it looks to be running okay. It is scalable, especially on the high end. If you really, really want to crank it and see how you can push the ray tracing and stuff, it actually does allow you to get full ray tracing and all of that. But if you are, what's the deal here? Talk to me. There we go. Okay. I thought I walked next to him. I was like, why isn't it triggering the cutscene? But anyway, it does seem like it is scalable. You can really crank it if you want to. It's just going to be a matter of whether you have the hardware to run it. It's definitely a heavier port than some of the other stuff that they've done, but it does look the part at the very least, except for the hair. I don't know why the hair looks so bad with DLSS turned on. And you know, I'm kind of frustrated that it basically looks like you need DLSS in order to get the game working properly. It's just a disappointment from me, because DLSS is great. It runs great. It looks great in a lot of instances, but there's a lot of other instances where I just would rather games be able to run and function properly. Like here, if I crank everything, let's go and just run it on very high, okay? Very high. And then I'm gonna just do ray tracing high, but I'm going to specifically try to turn off DLSS. Can I do that? Am I even allowed to? Yeah. Off. Dynamic resolution scaling off. Apply changes. Okay. And now when I go in, even with ray tracing on high, I'm still in the 80s. Like that's pretty damn impressive. If I move the camera down, you can see it's still relying on screen space reflections for those. So if I go in again and I tweak the graphics options again to maybe go ray traced, I would have thought that maybe if we go distance, shadows, reflections, high, very high, maybe now that works. Oh God, yeah, this is more what I expected. Once you go very high and then you actually demand it, it starts to struggle. Okay, we're back functioning. We're back functioning. And then you can always tell when you take the reflection on water and you put it to the edge of the screen and you look down like that, if the reflection stays, it's not doing a screen space reflection. It's actually trying to ray trace it. And it does look significantly better, but I'm sure also, I mean, it's to be expected that you're going to see lower frame rates while doing that, but still in the 70s without DLSS on, that's pretty impressive. And this in theory should fix a lot of the problems with the hair that we were seeing. So maybe this is what you do. It definitely is relying a lot on motion blurring, but still not bad, not bad. But like I said, it's scalable on the high end. We're going to find out when I test it on the ROG Ally how scalable it is on the low end of hardware, if this is something that you could play on the go. But it's not a bad port from what I can tell. I am suspicious about some of those bugs and things, but time will tell. Of course, it just came out, but looking at some of the reviews just from people trying to boot it up and see what it's like, you can see that a lot of people are like, it functions, it works. This one is funny, you know, with great graphics come great system requirements. Great PC port, but having problem with memory leak issue. That's interesting. If that's the key here, that's kind of cool. After 2 crashes under 10 minutes, now the game is running perfectly stable, but the VRAM issue or usage is kind of weird. Using 15 gigabytes at 1440p, very high preset without ray tracing and always increasing memory leak. 4060 Ti, 16 gigs. So it does seem like there is a memory leak issue, which could be explaining some of the weird behaviors for some of these people. And then you also, of course, see people praising the requirement of the PSN account being lifted, which again is such an easy W for PlayStation. I don't know why they were committed to dying on that hill. It was such a stupid thing. It's like, you're going to piss off a ton of PC gamers just to get some email addresses? Like, what are we doing? This is so dumb, but they came to their senses, apparently. Maybe getting Herman demoted was the key to getting rid of that. Who knows? But either way, Spider-Man 2 on PC, it's here, and it looks to be solid enough, but maybe it needs some additional tweaks. But that's the great thing about the Steam ports, is that if you want to take a little bit more time and maybe spend 2 hours playing the game and see how it runs for you, you can do that. And if it's running really poorly, you can return it. If it's running great, you keep it. And of course, if you're not convinced, you can always just hold on and, you know, wait for a sale or wait to get it till a later date. And that's totally fine too. It's not like you have to worry about spoilers and stuff. The game's been out for a while, so you'll be fine either way. But yeah, not bad. Not bad. Still worried about some stuff, but I'm sure we're going to find out more about that as the hours tick by and people get deeper and deeper into the game. But as of right now, it looks to be a solid enough port. But anyway, that's going to do it for me. Thank you for watching. I love you all desperately. And make sure to subscribe, because later today I have another video coming out on the Hogwarts Legacy mods that they are releasing on PC. They're releasing full mod support. It's a PC heavy day, isn't it? It's a good day to be a PC gamer. But make sure to subscribe so that you get notified when that Hogwarts Legacy mods on PC video goes up, okay? And of course, if you're not interested in Hogwarts Legacy, you should still subscribe, because there's other videos coming soon for other games. I feel quite hungry. That are coming out relatively soon. So make sure to subscribe, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot to talk about. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.